Welcome back to episode 5 of Single in Law. And on this particular episode, the title of this show is going to be Iron Sharpening Iron. I really feel like this is an important conversation that women and men need to have because we're out here talking about we want a strong man, we want a man to support us, but ladies, are we really ready for a man to help us sharpen our iron? I am so excited, like I'm always excited to have these special guests come on to our platform. And on this episode, I have someone that is just amazing, amazing human being, amazing male. And I am so excited for you all to be able to hear from him and hear from the conversations that we're going to have. So my special guest is Dr. J. I want you to introduce yourself to my viewers. Tell them a little bit about yourself, what you do, where you're from, introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. First, just thank you, Thelma, for allowing me to be on your podcast. Really appreciate it. My name is Jared Avery. I'm originally from New Orleans, Louisiana, born, bred, and raised. I'm a LSU graduate, 3-time graduate, LSU, earned my bachelor's, master's, and PhD from LSU. Bounced around a little bit after I graduated. After Baton Rouge, I moved to DC, where I spent a few years working, just doing some things professionally to advance myself, and then moved down south to Texas in 2017. Currently, I work at a graduate level Bible teaching school here in Dallas. Just been an amazing journey over these past few years, and just thankful for the opportunity just to, number one, know you, but also be a part just to kind of talk about this topic. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Now, Dr. J.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me tell you about this experience in undergrad I'm from North Louisiana, Shreveport, grew up half in Dallas, but I never knew that people from New Orleans had an accent. So when I went to Southern, I was like in shock because, there are to me, I am attracted to men from Louisiana or New York. Like they just have a different vibe. But when I heard that accent, and I was dating my high school sweetheart at the time, but I was like, wait a minute, because y'all say, baby. The girls go crazy when y'all start talking in your accent.
Right.
And you have an accent, a little subtle accent that I can tell. You know.
It come out a little bit. It really come out when I'm about family, friends, especially when my people come through. Like, it really, really come out. And certain words, like, kind of come out, too. Especially, like, when I start drinking a little bit, it starts to kind of,
listen,
so you hear it.
Listen. So. I love New Orleans. I love y'all. Like, can y'all just come around me all day because I just love the accent. Like, it's just top tier. So let me get into, I have a very fun topic or a segment in my show called Welcome to Death Row.
Okay.
Where you only get, I was leaning on the first show where I gave 2 objections, but I was like, that's not working because I need y'all to answer these questions.
Okay.
So you only get to object to 1 question.
Okay.
That means that, like, pleading the fifth, you get to pass it. You don't have to answer it. So on this very first question, I call it marry, Netflix and chill, or ghost. So I have 3 people that you have to either pick to marry, Netflix and chill, or ghost. I have Beyonce.
Okay.
I have Michelle Obama.
Okay.
And I have Lori Harvey.
All right. So this is probably going to be interesting. Y'all probably going to be like really shocked, but I would probably say I would probably ghost Michelle Obama. So are we giving reasons why, like, as we kind of go through it? Is that kind of what you want me to do?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So Michelle Obama, amazing woman, definitely can't take away from all she's done, her career, obviously things. I mean, she's amazing, right? I just know for me, like, after that initial kind of first couple dates, it'll probably get a little boring. And like, I mean, we talked about it before, right? The show started. Like, I'm from New Orleans, so like, I kind of like a little bit of excitement in my life, especially like my personality type, right? I'm more of like an introvert, kind of more chill, kind of more laid back. So whoever I'm dating, they're gonna complement that. And honestly, the women I've dated before, even now, you know, they have a little bit more spice to them, and so I think that makes things a little bit fun. So I'll probably ghost Michelle. The second one was Netflix and chill. Yeah. So I would probably say, and this is probably going to be another shocker, probably Beyonce. Oh, just because, like, honestly, like, I feel like, okay, so there's two Beyoncés, right? Beyonce earlier before Jay and Beyonce now. I feel like if we're talking about Beyonce, like, before Jay, definitely Netflix and chill, just because I feel like she was just, like, party girl, about having fun, and that's what was pretty much about, like, you know, at that age, or like earlier on in the 2000s to 2021 or whatever like that. So 2011, and then Mary, that leaves Lori Harvey for Mary.
What?
Yeah.
You know, Lori got these fellas in a chokehold right now. She'll have you in a chokehold. Are you ready to be strangled?
Yeah, I am, honestly.
Oh my God! Like,
honestly.
You know, I just need to know what Lori is out here doing to y'all, because Lori has people singing about her, writing diss records about her daddy, and y'all are just smitten by Lori Harvey.
I think it's the excitement, probably. Now, obviously, it's the physical, right? I mean, nobody can deny the physical, but I think it's the unknown, and I think she's almost like the unicorn, right?
Like
that
mysterious.
Everybody's like mysterious. Everyone's trying to tame. So I think that's probably like it's a little spice.
Lori, whatever you selling, sis, can you pack it up in a bottle, because I ain't doing something right, sis. I'm not doing something right. So, to get into how me, and I call you Dr. J, and that's what I've been calling you, even Teegan. Teegan's like, why you call call him that? DJ. We met at a gym called AZ. It's located in Dallas. Yes, a great, amazing facility. And I met you, and you were like, you know, I'm from New Orleans. I went to LSU, and I went to Southern. So we kind of like bonded a little bit, even though y'all across the street or whatever. And, you know, y'all be coming on our side all the time trying to get some flavor or whatever.
We did beat y'all though, right? Remember?
Yeah, whatever. You know, we showed up. The band showed up. The band showed up. Like, the battle was between the bands. I don't know what they was doing on that football field, but in the stands, we showed up, because where y'all band was.
They was there.
Okay, exactly. So we met, and I've always known, and just your energy has always been great, like positive. I've never seen you get upset. Yeah. I've never seen that anger. And so for me, I was like, that really does exist in Black men. Yeah. Like, to have that demeanor and still, you know, garner the respect from other people just by being who you are. Yeah. So I played a little. For the first time, I ain't doing it again, but I was a little matchmaker. Yeah. I'm going to, you know, toot my own horn a little bit.
And that was a good match.
Yeah, so I had a friend, my friend Teegan, who is one of the reasons that I started this platform, Single in Law, because we used to always talk about our little ghetto dating issues and how it was just trash. So I invited her to an event that we were having at the gym. It was, I believe it was Top Golf.
Yeah, Top Golf, late May.
Yeah, we went to Top Golf, and I was like, Teegan, I need you to come. She was not going to come at first, but she had bought her ticket, and it had rained. Even on that day, she called me. She was like, girl, it's raining. I was like, girl, we going. Yeah. No intentions or anything, but we showed up. And I saw the conversation that y'all were having. I was like, I might have put something together.
It was strategic.
I might put something together. So when we left, I knew I had tagged her and we were following each other. Yeah. And the next day she was like, girl, he hit me in the DMs. I was like, oh, it really goes down in the DM? I see. And I guess that's how y'all had started. Yeah. She was like, y'all started in the DMs, then y'all exchanged numbers. But listen, my friend was so smitten, like so smitten by you. We were rooting for you. Like, all of us was like, Teegan, get out of your head, get out your head. This is a great guy. And for the first time, I saw my friend happy.
Yeah.
And to me,
it's okay.
I had seen her go through so much with men. And for the first time, we were all excited for her because we really felt like that she met somebody that was going to match the energy that she so freely gives to other men that she have dated. So for me, I was super excited. I used to have to talk her out the ledge because Teegan, you know Teegan.
Yeah.
She was so spicy, so different, so like one of a kind type of human beings. And I just knew that she was ready for someone like you to come in and be an asset and not the other liabilities that she had experienced. So for me, I thank you for showing up in the manner and at the time that you did. And we experienced something that nobody plans to experience or think that they were ever experienced with being right there when she passed away.
Yeah.
So for me, I was, not only was I concerned about myself, I was concerned about you because it was a fresh situation. Y'all were getting to know each other. We had celebrated her birthday.
Yeah.
But what I can tell you is that she was so happy to have met you, have been, she was ready to explore whatever was going to be explored between the two of you. And I thank you as her friend because not often do friends really celebrate when their friend is happy. But I was going through my own issues, but I was rooting for y'all because I knew the type of man that I had witnessed with being around you for the time that I had been around you, that I was so happy and I felt safe. I felt like my friend was safe. I felt like she was protected. I felt like she had finally met someone that she could be confident in, knowing that you were going to be that person for her. So for that, I give you your flowers of being that for her, even if it was a short amount of time, because God doesn't put time on relationships. I can meet somebody tomorrow and next week we married, or we feel like it's that time. So I know after that happened, I got into therapy, but I know that even in the conversations that we had, she was like, Thelma, he's in therapy. Like, I really like that about him. So can you tell us, like, what was your experience like and how did therapy help you through the tragedy that we both experienced?
Yeah, so I would just say kind of first, thank you for introducing me to her. And, when we met, I want to correct myself. It wasn't late May, it was actually late April. And, just that experience was just so amazing and so impactful. I just remember like after things happened, after the accident, talking to my mom and, she mentioned that it's not always about the quantity of your days, but the quality, right? And she said that, and it made me realize like, man, not only did she give me something, but I gave her something as well. And kind of hearing you talk about that, also Chico, her other friends talk about that, in the days right after was really powerful. And, I have to admit, like, even going to therapy, I have a black male therapist, so definitely get you a therapist if you're a brother, especially a black male. But, he really helped me process it and also reiterated that whole point about quantity over quality. Now, honestly, like when something like that happens, you don't want to hear that, you don't want to hear anything about like, oh, it's for the better and all that kind of stuff. Forget that. You're thinking about, God, why did this happen on this day at this moment? And it happened so suddenly, right? It happened so sudden, like the vibe just changed just instantly like that. Before we can even recognize like what happened and process what happened, we were just like quick to action. But like I remember just in the days to follow, obviously, you know, just self-reflection, exercise helped me get through it. Definitely therapy, music. And I remember like one of the songs I was listening to it's a Drake song. One of the parts in the song is like bittersweet celebrations. I know I can't change what happened. And that's part of the song just kept playing back, kept playing back, kept playing back. And even to this day, like I still kind of have like flashbacks, you know?
Yeah, same.
So like therapy has helped in a sense of understanding that, and it's all about perspective. You know, I think life is all about perspective. It's all of like how we look at things. Even like throughout my life, you know, experiencing loss, not just in 2021, but also before that. You know, I'm a divorcee. But experiencing loss, it perspective is also important as well, you know, and looking at the side of the coin that's the opposite of the negative, right? Realizing that, yeah, Jared, you only knew this woman for 2 months, but it was quality, you know, it was a quality time. And she wanted to spend time with you on that day, not knowing that that would be the last. So that's going to always stick with me. That's going to always be with me. And I'm just so thankful that, you know, I had a chance to just experience her and she me. And the feelings were definitely mutual, you know. It was definitely mutual. And so thank you. Thank you to her friends for just vouching for me. Even like, you know, when I was met her and, you know, was going through therapy, part of the therapy was focused on just my own kind of rebuilding, right? You know, obviously 2017 separation, divorce thereafter. I knew there are some things before I got into a new relationship that I needed to work through. I needed to grow through. And it's kind of interesting, like therapy helps you realize that there are certain things that you experience in life have like underlying factors, right? Underlying things that triggers, you know, but also help you understand that it's, and Teegan said this, like, it's okay to not be okay, you know? So just being in that space where you can be vulnerable, that you could talk about how you feel and help processing it. I mean, it just means the world. So I remember she was actually helping me through a particularly tough time in my life. You know, my sister was going through cancer treatment. And I just remember like leaving out one day from work and talking to her. And we FaceTimed actually. And she can kind of tell something was up when it was FaceTiming. And she's like, Jared, it's okay to not be okay. So I just thank you for that. I thank just God for her spirit. And just for the opportunity, honestly, just the quality. So
there's been, I mean, the last two days or last week, her scripture, Jeremiah 29:11, has kept coming up, like from Sunday to last week. And I text her sister. I was like, hey, Teegan has been sending me these scriptures for the past couple of days. And I just wanted to share with people who she has such a great impact on. And even with therapy, Teegan was the person that encouraged me to get into therapy because of her therapy journey. And I can tell you, even in dating, I date different because of therapy. And I know a lot of us, we go back and we try to blame everybody or the person that we dated for the demise of the relationship. But for me, I had to really look into myself and realize some of that ownership goes into me because I was not healed. I was not coming from a place of healing. I was coming from a place of suppressing and thinking that, oh, this relationship was going to fix that, or my problems that I have suppressed for so many years were not going to factor into how I interacted inside of a relationship. And I know for me, communication was one of them. I would think that I was this person that could communicate about everything. But I realized I had a lot of flaws in communication. And as a Black man, how important to you is communicating up front, not later on, because you know that later on we used to communicating later on, and then we get into these roles and we get comfortable and like, oh, you should have said that in the beginning.
It's definitely huge. I would say just the whole communication piece is important. I think probably women do a better job of that than us guys do a better job of that. In a sense of like a lot of times, like we don't necessarily know how we're feeling, right? You know, so it's funny, like a lot of women, y'all be like, yo, let's talk about it right now. But I'm like, shit, I don't really know how I feel right now, you know, especially like for some of us that didn't grow up in an environment, you know, obviously I'm from New Orleans. So it's like, you know, you have to be very guarded, you know? So a lot of times, like I need like literally like 24, 48 hours kind of really process and like figure out like, Jay, like how you feeling? Like, is this how you really like what's really good with you? So, but a lot of times I think women feel like, okay, I know exactly how I feel. I'm going to express in that moment and then whatever. But I think another part of it too is the fact that like one thing that guys like is for you guys to be direct, right? We're not mind readers. We don't always know like what's going on, you know? So we can't, like a lot of times, honestly, like men are simple. Like we think about football, working out, like making y'all happy. And like if guys like video games, whatever like that, you know, and then pursuing our passion, whatever that may be. So a lot of times we're not even thinking about that. And I think the communication piece, you said something interesting. We may be communicating something that y'all may not necessarily be picking up. Like it may not be translating well, right? So I would probably say the perfect example would be, and actually I kind of draw from my own experience, would be like, so I'm dating right now and my lady, she, so throughout the day, she was busy doing work, right? But we had plans to link up. You know, I was going to go by her later on that evening. And, you know, but initially early that day, she's like, okay, I'm going to cook or whatever like that. But she was like super busy. So like when I was on my way over, I was like, hey, do you need me to get anything? She was like, no, she's super stressed out, whatever like that, you know, still working, right? So I'm thinking like, okay, I'm just going to grab some food, you know, just to free her up, right? I did that. It wasn't pretty, you know, just because she had already kind of like said, I'm going to do this. But me, I'm thinking like, hey, I'm being sensitive, right? I'm kind of thinking about what she need. I'm trying to at least take the burden off of her and say, hey, I'll go ahead and get something because I know you've been working all day. So that was a moment in like translation. And I think that's communication where we're not always mind readers. We don't always like pick up. I mean, things can be super obvious, but we don't pick up on that. So I think if women could just give us an opportunity or just kind of be more direct, that can help us out.
You know, speaking of that, that is one area that I have really dived into is because, example, when I was dating my ex and we would have conversations and they would be able to deflect to get out of it. Probably he would be doing some stupid shit.
Yeah.
But if I don't say anything or how it makes me feel right away, he found a way to get out of it.
Yeah.
And so me moving in the season that I'm in, I've learned to be very direct, have those uncomfortable conversations. One of my goals last year that my therapist reminded me of was that I wanted to have uncomfortable conversations. And damn it, them conversations were so uncomfortable. And I found out who these individuals truly were when I started communicating and communicating in a very direct and healthy way. And to me, that gave me confirmation that it's okay. You can be direct. You don't have to hide behind a feeling because you feel like it'll make somebody else feel some type of way. No, there's someone out there that is going to be okay with your directness, but you have to learn how to communicate and speak that language based off of the individual that you are dealing with at that time, not the ones that wasn't open to communicating, because I've learned that you get through a lot of layers by being direct, communicating, and even letting that person know up front, like, hey, this is how I communicate. I may be trash in the beginning, but if you keep telling me like, hey, if you keep being direct, I promise you I'm going to catch up to what your needs are. Because even men, do you think that women ask y'all, what do y'all want? What do y'all need? What are your desires? Do you think that we can do a better job with asking those questions because we're so focused on ourselves majority of the time and what we want y'all to do for us? Do you think we do a good job with asking y'all those very direct questions so that we can know what y'all need?
You want to know my
Hell
100% answer?
Hell yeah.
No.
Exactly. I knew that.
No, but just because I think, like, honestly, like, I think part of communication is for women not being defensive, right? Not taking my honest criticism as like an indictment on who you are as a person, as a woman. Being able to be like vulnerable, like, and that's why a lot of times, honestly, like guys just keep it 100, just don't say shit. You know, we just kind of like just keep it pinned, and I'm guilty of it, honestly. Like, a lot of times I don't say shit just because I want to keep the peace. Like, men would honestly rather not argue if it means them feeling miserable because they know like it's almost like you got to pick your battles. Like, either you're gonna be miserable from your lady or you're just gonna just be miserable by yourself, and you could just work that shit out and just it'll work itself out. But I think for women, just being more receptive to that feedback is something that, and not being defensive, taking it as like, okay, like, this is what my guy is really wanting. This is what he's really saying. He's trying his best to communicate. Again, going back to what we talked about before, guys, we struggle with communication off top just because we didn't grow up expressing our feelings. You know, a lot of us grew up in broken families, so we didn't have that role model. A lot of us did, but a lot of us didn't. So it's hard for us to really process and figure out, okay, is this really how I'm feeling right now? Or is this like something else, right? So I think just having and being open to that, right? Receiving it like wholeheartedly and being genuine and receiving it. You know, I think that's the one thing that a lot of guys want. Kind of like to piggyback off that, I remember having a conversation with one of my best friends at AZ, actually. And for guys, and I'm not sure if this is one of the topics, but we talked about dating, right? And was having a conversation with, you know, someone else, another sister, she was at the table with us or whatever like that. And we talked about like dating, and surprisingly, I feel like for a lot of guys, especially guys that's like on their stuff, like know what they want, I feel like it's harder for guys to date the guys that, just because like, I know women, y'all think opposite, right? But it's because like we have a lot of options that's like we really want somebody that understands us. And that's hard sometimes. You know, having that mutual connection, having that person that just literally down for you, you know, really want the best for you and able to like listen to you and be in a space where you are heard. That's what we really want at the end of the day. I mean, we could easily go on Instagram, whatever like that. See what I'm saying? Like DM, smack. We could easily do it. Like, it's easy, you know, but finding that genuine friend, someone that is like, not that just, I don't want to say ride or die, because that's like a cliche term, but somebody that's heart is pure and genuine, that's hard to find.
Now listen, we about to get into this, but before I talk about my issues with criticism and really being vulnerable in that area, we're going to take a little commercial break, and we're going to be right back with this same topic, so stay tuned. Welcome back to Single in Law Podcast, where we left off on a very, very important topic when we were talking about communicating and especially women. We take criticism from our men? Like, is it a safe space? Why are we so defensive with taking criticism? Now, I can say for myself, I've had to grow so much in order to be able to take constructive criticism. I feel like my upbringing and not having a male figure in my life to instill that voice of safety, because I feel like if I had a father that was actually active, I would be able to have a better reception to criticism from the men that I've dated. But learning and growing as a woman in my own right and having to navigate through that area, I had to recognize, like, okay, if you expect your mate to take criticism from you, why is it that you can't take criticism from them? And then I used to think, like, some of the conversations that I would have with exes or people that I've dated, this was pre-therapy. Pre-therapy, I was so defensive. I was listening to respond. It's a difference. Listening to respond and listening to hear. It's very different when you're communicating with the opposite person. And I was like, oh, you said, oh, well, let me pull out my receipts. I'm pulling out receipts, not even hearing them. So it's going in one ear, out the other, and never to be discussed again. So I understand how men draw back and not even want to have that conversation anymore, because we didn't do a good job with hearing you all. And we didn't do a good job at really taking the constructive criticism and really growing from it, because I can say now, with looking back, I've had to take accountability for some of the conversations because I was like, I didn't value that person like I said I did because I didn't really listen to what their concerns were. Then I was like, you know what? Moving forward, you need to be listening to hear. And don't be so fast to respond because they have to have a voice just as much as you have to have a voice. So I've learned the hard way. But I can say in therapy, I've transitioned into that role to where I've seen them become more uncomfortable with it because I know for some women it's disappointment. It's like you're disappointing someone to where like you don't want to hear disappointment. You don't want to hear that someone, feels like you did something, but it's not necessarily doing something. It's learning and growing through their level of communication.
All right.
So for you, how do you take criticism, even from the current dating relationship that you have right now? How are you able to take that criticism?
Yeah, I mean, so I think a couple things to answer your question directly. So I'm an Aries, like I'm a fire sign. So I have to keep it real. Like oftentimes I don't like my reaction. I've gotten a lot better from my reaction, right? But like I get defensive at times, especially when like I know I'm doing something right and like I just don't see it. So like that part I'm still working on. So y'all continue to pray for me on that.
I'm gonna pray for you.
Yeah.
Let me tell you why I'm
a fire sign. So
because my ex was an Aries, and on my last episode I said, what are the two toxic zodiac signs that you've ever dated? Aries.
We not that bad.
Oh,
we not that bad.
God, not you.
Okay.
You in therapy. This Negro was toxic as hell.
Yeah.
Had to take him to court. He got arrested. He wouldn't stop, communicating, like reaching out. He was, running my name through the streets. Like he was rightfully so. This is and I can take accountability because when I decided to break up with him, I should have closed that door. But I left that door open to where he thought in his mind that there was another chance. Yeah. And so for me, I had to take responsibility and say, you know what? Yeah. You gave him hope.
Yeah. You
gave him a prayer to pray because you left that door open instead of closing it. Yeah. So a little bit of it, was my fault. But listen, Aries, man, sis,
we all ain't bad.
If it ain't Dr. J, run.
We all ain't bad.
If it ain't Dr. J, run, because they don't make them like him. Well, I don't know what they be sipping on, but these... Okay.
Well, we got Big Sean. He's like late March. He's an Aries too, so he's therapy. But so a lot of times my reaction is like very fiery, right? And where I've tried to work, and I think where therapy has helped, is just taking that time to step back, but also communicating to my lady and just saying, hey, I need like literally 24 hours to 48 hours, kind of literally like just process like how I feel, because a lot of times I don't even know like what I'm thinking. I don't even know if it's justified. So I try to like go through like that, like in my mind it's like a map, right? It's like, okay, like are you feeling this way because like you hungry? Is it you feeling this way because you stressed out about work stuff? Is it something else? So like first of all, that's kind of like the thinking, right? And then also being understanding like, okay, what am I not getting from you, my girl? So I think it's a combination of those things where I think a lot of times guys have to really take a step back and not react always forcefully. Or not necessarily forcefully, that's probably like the wrong term, but react in a way that comes off as super aggressive, right? Because, one of the things that people say is like, they say women are emotional. Well, guys are emotional too. It's just expressed differently. Yeah. It's expressed like differently, so being able to like literally take that step back, think about those things, right? Why am I feeling this way? Am I just all those different things, right? Before you say, okay, well, this is whatever, But I think on the opposite side, I think what we would like to see is just women being able to be receptive to that. Because I think a lot of times we don't have that safe space where we can feel like we can fully express ourselves without being in the doghouse or being yelled at. See what I'm saying? So if you guys can and I think a lot of women are doing a better job of that, we all both have things that we need to work on, both men and women. But I think that'll help out tremendously.
I agree. And I know as women, the one thing that I tell any man that I'm dating, like when it's that time of the month, I give a warning, and I am very subconscious about that time because I can feel my emotions. Like they're having these issues, they're having these battles, and I'm very conscious of that to where I know that I need to dial it back, and I know I need to get out of my head, and I know that I don't want to make my mate a casualty of those unbalanced hormones because, listen, literally, it'd be a battle for us. Like, we be, like, fighting them damn hormones. And then the older you get, the more insane they get. They get, like, unhinged. And so you really, that's one thing that I communicate. Listen, it's almost that time. Yeah. And even in my past relationships, they know, like, they'll say, it's that time of the month. Go to the corner. Talk to yourself. Because right here is not the time or the place.
So you said something interesting, Lou. Like you said something in terms of like context. I think context is important and being able to like kind of give us a warning, right? And I think on the other side too, guys, like for example, I'm doing a better job of it, but I don't necessarily always do a good job of it because like obviously introvert personality types, but I internalize a lot of things. And so one of the things I've been working on is just letting my lady know like, hey, like I'm super like stressed out at work. We got this coming up, that coming up. I may not always be responsive, that way, at least, like, hey, well, maybe I don't really tell Jared, or maybe I don't really like talk to Jared about this. Maybe it's something that it could wait and vice versa. Right. Like I think context is key, especially when you get into a situation. It's better for that other person to know like, hey, this is what I'm getting into. This is what is potentially impacting or affecting my mood, my decision, whatever like that. So that way, like, okay, how to navigate it. See what I'm saying? And it may be something where it'll be like, yo, sometimes shit just happens. Sometimes things aren't always the most ideal situation. And that's life. And that's totally cool with life. But I think giving your person that you're with an idea of like, hey, this is what's going on. It's the context. It ain't you. It's probably something else, something that I'm experiencing with family or something that a coworker or somebody I'm supervising, but it's impacting ultimately how I'm dealing with you because I can control this situation. Yeah. So I think giving that context is important.
I agree. The reason I agree with that is being a lawyer and being a litigator has to be one of the most stressful jobs, outside of being a a doctor, running institutions, being an entrepreneur. One thing that I communicated to my ex, I was like, hey, when I'm in trial, and I used to be in trial a lot, have almost 50 trials in the years that I was in litigation. I had to tell him like, listen, when I'm in trial mode, I'm not having sex. Yeah, I need to be able to focus on being able to prepare because the way I prepare like I'm Peyton Manning. I prepare like I'm about to go and speak, like I'm an Obama or something. Yeah. Like that's how I prepare. Like, and it takes a lot of mental capacity and mental preparedness, and it drains you. So I would tell them like, listen, sex is catch me after the verdict comes out, it can go down. Yeah. But during that time, I need to focus. And I think I heard Mayweather say this. Like Mayweather was like, he does not have sex prior to him like going into the ring or why he's training. I was like, oh, that's a lot of Mayweather. That's a lot of days. I'm just got to focus on like a week or so. So I'm good. But I do think communicating and letting them know because you can, like you said, you can't, as women, we need to stop expecting men to read our minds because I'm guilty of like, well, you should have known that. No, sis, he shouldn't have known it because you ain't tell him. Did you tell him? Is he in your brain? Did your mama have him? Are y'all brothers and sisters? Do y'all are twins? Y'all got them signals together? I ain't never seen it happen before, but things are different in this world, Yeah. But yeah, I do think that having those conversations and communicating is so important, and even recognizing your non-negotiables. Like I think the older we get, we recognize our non-negotiables, and I know for me, If you can't communicate, that's a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
If you are a habitual cheater, that's a non-negotiable. If you are lying, that's a non. If you are lazy, non-negotiable. So I know. Oh, and if you don't walk with the Lord, it's definitely a non-negotiable. So I know those are mine. What are your non-negotiables?
As far as non-negotiables, obviously God-fearing. So, I want my woman. I mean, I'm not saying she got to go to church every week, but at least have that relationship with God. I think that's important because, like, that's everything I have comes from God above, like, straight up. And so that's number one. And I also say number two is just somebody that's loyal as well. Somebody that's going to be with you from thick and thin, and I'm very blessed the fact that I'm in a season of my life where, things are happening, right? God is providing, God has blessed me with a lot, but it wasn't always like this, So are you going to be down when things aren't quite right? Are you going to be here when there is a drought season? Like, I'm the type of cat, like, I'm not going to be on the couch eating Cheetos or whatever like that. Like, I'm going to be out trying to make it happen. Even when I did have that downtime in my life. But I'll need somebody that's going to be there with me to understand that, hey, this is a season just like the season I'm in right now. So I would say that's number two. And then I would say probably number three is just someone that just gets me, right? Understand that a lot of times, like, it's okay if we don't talk, if I don't talk to Jared, and being cool with that, being cool with, like, sometimes I got to work on a weekend. I want to work on a weekend because I want to be able to provide for you. I want to be able to do stuff, I want to be able to build. I want to be able to pursue my passion, more importantly. So I would say probably those three things are like the biggies, but probably that understanding piece is like really key. Because I think a lot of times people look at the resume, right? When they go through whoever they with, they're like, man, she looked bad. She got this, she got that. But it's those intangibles, I think, that a lot of guys really seek and really want. Again, kind of going back to what I said earlier, you could easily hop on IG and hop on something, DM. You could easily go out to brunch. That's the easy part. The part that takes work is those intangibles. When you understand, like, is she God-fearing? Is she about family? Is she about you, more importantly? And will she be with you when things aren't always the greatest, right? Depending on what season you in, right? I do recognize that some of your viewers may, be with people that are struggling. So shout out to them. And, I know the situation, but continue to stick through it. Times will get better, especially if that brother's, like, working, actively trying to do better and pursuing his purpose and passion. But I think those things are something that we really gotta, for me at least, those are the things that, like, the things I really want.
I think that's important to say that because a lot of people don't understand, and they think that, okay, she's a lawyer, he's a doctor, they got it all figured out. It's like they think we scratched the lotto as soon as we graduate. That is up. It's up, but it comes in steps. And I know for me, being an African American woman, it is that much harder. So my walk was a little longer than what the walk for a Caucasian woman, any woman that's not a woman of color. So when you speak about being there for the good, the bad, and the ugly, that's the type of woman that I am. But I haven't met a man yet to match that energy. They pretend that they have that energy, but I haven't met a man yet to match that energy. So now in my season to where I'm getting to the point of where that peak of success is there, I'm questioning, are you going to be that person that I can depend on through the good, the bad, the ugly, not in my winning season? Because you didn't experience me in my season where I won't say it's a loss, it was a lesson. I'm going to say you didn't experience me in the season of me learning and growing. So I think that is very important because people automatically think, oh, okay, they're a lawyer, they are a doctor, that the shit just happened instantly. No, it took years for us to get to this point. But it didn't take us long to figure out if you were going to ride for us. If you was going to show up for us the way that we show up for you in a season where you're not doing your best.
Can I take a time to minister real quick? Kind of get a word a little bit. So, like, you said something really interesting. And I think a lot of times people want that instant gratification, right? And, you know, just kind of thinking about careers and thinking about like life trajectory, how things happen. I remember working at this previous institution, right? And the president of the school said, every flower doesn't bloom on the first day of spring.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll repeat that. Every flower doesn't bloom on the first day of spring, which pretty much means that a lot of times we have this assumption that, you know, based on where this person is, I think social media has a lot to do with it, that we automatically assume that we have to be this here person, at this moment, right? That may not be your season. That may not be your calling. And I know for me, like me and my friends, we talk about this a lot. One of my best friends from Louisiana, because he's in a season where things are like rocking with him. He's actually a Southern alum. One of my best, Southern. But we talk about, like, for me, when I got out of grad school, I spent the majority of my 20s, you know, doing like undergrad, my grad stuff, PhD stuff. Mm-hmm. And when I got out, and it's probably for the fellas, I felt like when I graduated in 2014, like I was this first round draft pick, had all these expectations, had all these things that were like riding for me, but it didn't quite work well. And think about like guys that get into the league, right? Like that first round draft pick, you get into a team situation, you may not necessarily be utilized, right, by the head coach. You know, you may be in a situation where like just things just don't go right. Mm-hmm. You're not really picking up the speed of the game. But again, you have this first round pedigree. You got these expectations that have been placed on you for a long time. And you've been working towards this for such a long time that it just don't quite shake out. So after year 2, year 3, people start calling you a bust.
Yeah.
People start writing you off. And Geno Smith, shout out to Geno Smith, Seattle Seahawks quarterback, he said something recently. He was like, when people wrote him off, he didn't write back. And so that just stuck with me. So fast forward after year 2, year 3, the game start slowing down a bit. You start figuring it out. You start seeing the field. You start processing it, and just things just start clicking, right? And I think for me and a lot of guys, that's the case with a lot of us, right? And a lot of people, just in general, women as well. I just use that analogy, you know, because I think it blends a little bit well. But a lot of times it's not your season to do what you're supposed to be doing, to be what you're supposed to be, you know. Now, if you're just giving up and not doing nothing, then that's a totally different story. But if you actively working at your craft, going after it, then it'll eventually shake itself out. It may not necessarily happen as fast as you may think it may happen. But if you know you're doing the right thing, continue doing it. And eventually it'll shake out. So that's kind of my whole thing right now. Is like I'm in this prime season right now. Obviously, I'm 37, which is a prime number. But I feel like this stretch over the last few years have been such a ride. You know, it's been like building and building. And like I wrote on one of my posts, like I'm literally just getting warmed up. Like I feel like
I feel the same.
Yeah.
I feel the exact same way. And it's the mustard seed for me.
Yeah.
You know, it's planting those seeds in a season where it may be dry. It may be your dry season. Mm-hmm. But if you're planting those seeds, I remember when I first got out of law school, I was at this company making crumbs, like pennies on the fucking dollar. And I knew my ultimate goal was to become a litigator. That happened within a couple of months because I stayed persistent and I stayed consistent in my goal. I still wasn't making what people think the average lawyer will make. I started as a prosecutor making under $60,000. It took me 3 to 4 years to get to 6 figures in that position. But during that time, I was planting the seeds of being an entrepreneur. Using, instead of me going out to, you know, floss and, you know, do all of that, I was planning and investing in the businesses that I wanted. And even when I was dating, instead of you buying me an expensive bag, give me that money because I'm going to put it in a business. Some people figured it out and was like, oh, what if we break up? I say, you damn right. You can go buy me a bag. But guess what? I don't need that. What I need and what I want and what I desire is to create generational wealth. And if you're not on board with that, then you can keep that bag because there's somebody else out there that is willing to invest and grow with me, even if you're not willing to do that. So I think it's very important for women to understand that material things are cool, but how are you going to build from those material things? Because they only last for certain seasons, and the season change and the design change, and then you left with this old bag and a broken relationship. But if you are really trying to create something for yourself, really expand your way of thinking and create these things that create generational wealth. And that's the vibe that I'm on and what I've always been on. And I'm going to stay on that because a bag ain't gonna keep me cold, warm at night. I'm sorry.
That's real. You said something interesting, Lou, like vibes, energy, spirit. I think all those inherently are acronyms for the same thing. Wavelength. You have to be on the same page, right? You have to be with someone, or at least have someone in your circle that think commonly, right? I mean, the topic of the day is what? Iron sharpens iron, right? I think one of the reasons why we're so successful, and again, this is just like the tip of the iceberg, right? Because again, I feel like still just getting warmed up.
We just getting warmed up.
Is that I see things that you're doing. Like literally, I was asking you about business stuff, before we came in. I have other friends that, goal setting, my other homeboys, like literally my group chat, like one of the group chats I had, we talking about this is what we want to do, this is what we want to do, so being in an environment, it forces you, because you don't want to be that one friend that's not doing stuff. You don't want to be on that one friend that's like on the couch eating Cheetos, so like you want to constantly push yourself and have people in your circle that push you, and it's vibes, it's energy, it's spirit, it's wavelengths, whatever you feel, that's what it is. So,
and this year in specifically, I termed it and coined it as the year of partnerships and collaborations, because you can't do it all. I've learned that, and I have literally fell on my ass several times with trying to be everything, when there is somebody out there that has this specific niche that you need in order for you to expand and grow. And I think people get afraid, especially our culture, being African American, because of what we were forced to deal with, that we're afraid to share the idea. We're afraid to bring somebody else to the table. No, come to the table. Let me see what you got. Let me see how we can collaborate, because I love some of my best trials wins were with Black prosecutors, Black litigators. And when more of us come together, we are going to continue to expand. That's what they're afraid of. They're afraid of us coming together and unifying, but we got to get past that ego. I come to the table with no ego. I come to the table, I'm willing to give that person what their value is. I'm not for shortchanging my people when I know that me paying the Caucasians is not going to, get me where I know my people are going to get me. So how do you feel about this year specifically? I feel like it's the year of collaborations and partnerships, and why that should be something that we continue to manifest within our own people.
Great question. So last year for me, the theme was intentionality. I think this year, and I was thinking about this earlier, collaboration, but also being very strategic, right? In your collaborations, and being strategic in life choices, being strategic in whoever you're with, being strategic in how you spend, whatever that may be, right? Being strategic. And so I think when you think through strategy, you think through multiple components with that, right? You're always thinking about, and this is why the game of chess is so dope, because you can't always think about that one move. You have to think about the second, third move from that. How will what I'm doing right now impact this, right? And I'm even thinking about this now, like in terms of like the whole business idea and the things that I want to be able to work on this year. How will this set up for year 2, year 3, when I'm 40, 45, whatever like that? How is it going to help set up that generational wealth piece that you talked about? So you definitely want to be strategic. I will also say to that point, you can't always collaborate with everybody, because everybody ain't for you. Everybody doesn't necessarily mean well for you. You may have folks that may smile in front of you, but may talk about you, so just being very purposeful, intentional, and strategic of like who you work with compared to who you don't work with, and who you let in your circle and in your space vibe compared to who you don't.
Okay. So, we're at the end of the show, but I want to throw this in here, because we started off with our death row, fun topic. We're going to end with this. So I'm going to ask you these questions. Like I said, you only get one chance to object. So the first question is, if you could spin the block with one of your exes, flings, one-night stands, would you?
So honestly, like, this goes back to perspective, right? I'm actually cool with my exes.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm cool. So,
except for one.
Yeah, I wouldn't name the person's name, but yeah, just because I feel like they taught me something, in that point of my life that I needed.
Yeah.
I didn't understand it at that moment because I was like, man, like, fuck. You see what I'm saying? Like, I whatever, during a breakup, but over time, I was able to get perspective. I was like, man, I'm actually happy I got that experience because it helped me be the man I am today. It helped me grow me into my purpose. So I would.
That's dope. That's dope.
That's when you heal.
I was, it's only one, but said on the last episode, I think his frontal lobe was not developed as well. Yeah. So, I think, the older you get, especially for males, our frontal lobe gets better. So the next question, have you ever had a one-night stand?
I'll plead the fifth on that one.
You object?
I object to that
one.
Yeah.
No!
I object. I object to that one.
Okay. Well, I'm going to ask you this. Have you ever went in and, raw dogged the situation? You don't get to object to this one.
Yeah.
Oh, you went in swimming with no gloves, with no life jacket?
Yeah.
Damn. Did you drown?
I didn't drown.
Oh, okay.
I
so
swam.
you
I
swim. You made it out. You made it out okay?
I was good. Yeah.
Okay.
A long time ago.
A long time ago. I ain't gonna beat you up too
bad when
too
I
bad.
was. Yeah.
Okay, one more question. I'm gonna ask you this because I hear men talking about this all the time, and it's been a topic of conversation. Have you ever got ready to have sex with a woman, whether you was about to go down or she was spread eagle, and you smelt an odor and you kept going?
Yes. Just because a lot of times you don't really think about that. You're like, man, like, she pretty, she fine. And you just honestly, like, just chalk it as an L and be like, yo, I just deal with it at another time.
Okay, at least you honest.
But you do think about that on a second, third, like if there's a second, third. So
okay. Well, Dr. J,
that's amazing.
Thank you for coming and being a part of this amazing concept that we created, especially with the goal of having Teegan being a part, being a legacy and a love letter to her. I think a lot of people can learn from this conversation that we are having, being two individuals have on a day-to-day basis. Our degrees doesn't change us going through life. So I appreciate you. I adore you. I love you. You are an amazing man, and I'm excited to see everything that you have going on. I hope you all enjoyed this episode, Iron Sharpening Iron. I hope that it blessed you. I hope that you received something. And listen, we're going to keep these conversations coming. It's a safe space, and we hope that you all continue to tune in for the next and the following episodes.